Now it's time to review Chickenology. Like I said in my previous review of Pigology, it's winter, it's a great time to rest and dream and learn, and for our family that includes a lot of reading. So I want to add as many homesteading books as I can so our kids can learn about animals and how to care for them in a fun way. So like Pigology, this one is illustrated by Camilla Pintanato. It has different authors though, so I'm going to tell you some of the things I love about it and some things I wasn't crazy about and give you my rating at the end. I love how towards the beginning it starts out with some more terminology about chickens. Fun fact about me, I didn't realize until about 6 months ago that a pullet wasn't just a young chicken. I thought pullets were just between chicks and adults, not realizing that pullets were females and the cockerels were the males. So this book talks about that, thankfully. It also has a great illustration going from day 1 to day 21 of a chick developing inside of an egg, which I thought was great. One thing that I thought was pretty great, I actually thought about making my own video on this. I'm sure somebody has, but they have a whole page dedicated to the sounds that chickens make, which if you've had chickens for any length of time, you know what it sounds like when a hen has just laid an egg. And they actually like spell it out. So when a chicken just lays an egg, they have bok, 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 and then they have it spelled out for when a chicken is just kind of clucking to her chicks to be near her, just a bok, 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 versus a cooing sound that they make when they're relaxed and resting, versus when they're panicked, what sound they make. So it was fun to, I appreciated them spelling that out, literally. And of course there are many breeds of chickens, but they have a couple pages dedicated to just looking at the feather and being able to identify the chicken from that. And you can't always, or at least I couldn't tell just looking at the feather what breed it was, but it was pretty neat to have that in there. Another thing that they touched on, they of course talked about several different breeds of chickens, but they also emphasized how even within one breed, there can be a whole slew of different colors. So one thing that I didn't know reading this book was that leghorns, for example, come in 12 different colors. Of course, it talks about their anatomy and you get to see that internal view of a chicken. And there's a page that shows all the different types of combs that chicken have on top of their heads, which is also very fascinating how many different kinds there are. There is a page dedicated to the different diseases that chickens have, and it touches on the intelligence that chickens have, where we kind of assume that they're pretty stupid most of the time, and there's a page dedicated to talking about the things that chickens can do if they're taught to do it. Similar to Pigology, there's a couple pages dedicated to egg dishes specifically from around the world, which is kind of fun to see. Our family goes through tons of eggs. I'd like to have some raw in my smoothies almost every day, if not every day. But of course, there's scrambled eggs and all sorts of different kinds of eggs, so it's fun to see them from around the world too. There's several pages that talk about chickens throughout history and chickens in stories, a lot of times in fables especially. There was one that they highlighted from Aesop's fable that included chickens and them trying to talk to this fox and how that all went. And then it did talk about kind of a basic overview of how to care for a chicken, so giving them shelter and water and food. And one thing that I especially liked was one section where it talked about chickens. The section was called Chickens as Allies of the Garden, and so it talked about how the chickens can get into like a food scrap pile or a compost pile and stir it up and add their manure, or aka fertilizer, to the stack, and how that can benefit the whole yard. So I liked that kind of permaculture idea that was in there. At the end, they kind of ended out with several pages of different breeds of chickens and a little bit of their history and where they came from. So similar to my basic analysis of Pigology, the main thing that I wasn't crazy about with this was, again, a worldview difference. I believe in the Bible and in the creation of the world in the Genesis account, and so I don't believe that the world is millions of years old, and the book does talk about that. I also believe that God made animals differently, each animal differently, and Adam was called on to name them. And so when it talks about chickens being super closely related to dinosaurs, that's definitely a place where I'm like, I don't think so. And that there was a couple pages dedicated to that as well. Those I could definitely leave. And then the other thing, which again is only like a half point off, if anything, I expected to see a lot more familiar breeds of chickens in here. Like, I was really surprised to make it through a book called Pigology and not see any Buff Orpingtons. In my mind, those are like the most common breed of chickens that there is. It did have a lot of them, a lot of other ones, but that was just one small thing that surprised me. They talked about Rhode Island Reds, But they talk about a lot that seemed to be a little bit more obscure that I had never really heard of. So it was neat to learn about them, but I was surprised not to see more common breeds. Have you read Chickenology? Did you like it? Tell me in the comments. And again, if you have any other books like these that you would recommend, tell me about those in the comments too. Thanks. Bye.